So, hi, I'm A.P.T Songs,
I'm Niele.
and we're just talking shop about various things happening in music and hip hop. Because as you can see from the shirt here, I'm a fan of hip hop. This is Hammer, old school status. There's been a lot happening in hip hop as of late. There's been beefs, there's been traumas, there's been a lot of stuff. Obviously, right now the big thing is the Diddy stuff. We had a conversation about that the other day.
Is Diddy the really biggest story?
Right, for the last 4 days it's been, yeah, because they went from like, you gotta figure, the biggest, one of the most influential producers in hip hop, it gets told that he's been abusing somebody. He tells us all that never happened, and then a tape comes out like, oops, it actually happened. And then he goes from like being seen as like, maybe people aren't after him for his money, maybe they're lying on him, to like, oh, now like you have 18 companies that have dropped him. You have people on various sides of things saying that on one hand, Diddy is like totally a liar and a fraud, and then if he abused this girl, who's to say the other cases about him aren't true? Then you have other people that are like, well, you know, Cassie kind of knew what she was getting into, getting with Diddy. It's not like, to be fair, it's not like he didn't have the reputation before. Like, he beat up freaking Steve Stout in his office. Why you would think he would never want to lay hands on you? Again, this doesn't condone it. I'm just saying, you gotta know what you're getting into.
I mean, but to say that, to your Diddy is the biggest story, but I think that speaks more to our culture and our society, because Diddy's not the biggest story. You know, we're on the brink of World War II. You know, inflation.
World War III. Yeah.
My bad. Two was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But, you know, people can't pay their bills. There was a helicopter that...
That crap, the Iranian president. Yeah.
You know, there's so many things that are important. We have a presidential election.
I know we do,
and
yeah.
a candidate that is on trial in 3 or 4 different cases.
Yeah.
Who really, if he gets back in office, he's probably not going to leave without a civil war.
You don't think so? You think he'd be the one to try to be like, look, we're gonna send this out?
Most definitely.
I can see that for Trump, actually, yeah.
So with all that being said, you know, Diddy, says your typical nigga from the neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? He's not the only one. Look at Tahara from Love and Hip Hop, just came out today and busted Joe Budden out.
Oh yeah, which is weird because like Joe came out like I didn't hear the whole show yet. I just heard the snippet where he's like, you know, oh, this Diddy guy is trash and this and that, and it's like, honestly, any guys in hip hop that are gonna come out and talk about stuff, like, please have a clean record. Like, even with like, you know, Kendrick and Drake, really? It's like Drake was like, hey, but there's like proof of you like beating your girlfriend. Like, y'all can't be throwing these accusations at people and not realizing that your stuff's gonna come out of the closet too. You know, like, but I think there can be multiple big stories, like, because I also don't think, like, you know, there's the election going on, there's stuff going on. I think those are important, but people also don't want to be browbeaten with those stories like all day long. Because like the Iranian president died, I can't do anything about that.
But I feel like the Diddy story is too many opinions. It's too loud. Diddy has to pay for what he's done. That's between him and Cassie. Cassie got her $30 million. You know, she could have said, hey, I want to prosecute him in a criminal case. I want to prosecute him she didn't. She went for the money. I ain't mad at her for going for the money, because who's to say she would have won in a criminal case and she just could have walked away.
Actually, if the tape came out, she could have probably won more money.
Right.
Yeah, than a 30 mil. But I mean, still.
The point, because that's their business. You see what I'm saying? That's their business. And for some reason, we have become so invested in their business.
Right.
When, back to my point about being able to pay our bills, being able to make sure our kids can go to school. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I love the culture. I love to go to a good concert. I love to travel. There's so much to live for, and it shouldn't be to get in other people's business. And, you know, it's just, I'm exhausted today.
Well, that ties in, though, to what you said earlier about how, like, back in the day, they didn't have cell phones. We didn't have, for those of you that are watching this that are maybe younger, prior to, like, 2000 and we'll say 2001, 2002, there was no social media. You couldn't text people. Like, the phone was basically just for calling people. And so, as a result of us having access to phones and social media, when we go on social media, all the companies care about is, okay, what are people consuming and clicking on? And Come to find out, it's mostly beef and arguments and also salacious things. So Diddy may not be the most important story, at least as far as we're concerned, but the social media at large, the fact that people are already making like cartoon skits about it and getting clicks on it and doing TikToks and getting blown up for it, like that's all that's going to be pumped out to us because that's what we seemingly are caring about based on what we're giving back to these algorithms.
Or are the algorithms dictating what's important to us?
Well, I think it's a matter of both. It's one of those like chicken or egg things. Like, okay, like, you know, YouTube starts in 2005 and then we start putting videos up and then they start seeing what's getting responded to. And then they say, oh, people are responding to this kind of stuff. So let's put out more of this stuff. It's kind of like back in the day they had talk shows. And in the 80s, it was mostly like regular old talk shows. They just had Sally Jesse Raphael back on Sherry's show. Mm-hmm. And she was saying that she got out of the business because in the early 90s, it started leaning towards more salacious stuff. And then they were trying to get her to do that and she didn't want to. But those were the shows that blew up because more people were watching those. So it's like,
or is that a narrative that mainstream media decides that they want to feed us?
Yeah.
Based upon who the consumers are, the number one consumers, which is Black folks, right?
That is also true. Yes.
And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to get into news because mainstream media dictates what we see, how we see it, and how we perceive it, and how much we get it. Because there's a gamut of things that they could be talking about, but they choose to talk about what they want to talk about because it's part of the agenda. Yeah. And so I feel like with social media, it has created the algorithms, and I'm talking about the Googles and the Zuckerbergs of Meta.
Yeah, true.
You know, and little is told, they're probably behind, you know, banning TikTok. With lawmakers and things like that, because that's how the game works. That's how it works on the Hill. Yeah. They have the All-American White Boy Club, as usual, has built out a system of, okay, this is what social media is. Then you have a disruptor like TikTok coming in from a different country, and now they're the problem. Now, yeah, the Chinese are not an enemy, but an enemy. You know, they're aligned with, you know, Putin and, you know, whatever. Yeah. But at the same time, the shit that Zuckerberg and Google are doing, you know, they need to be regulated too. The whole gamut needs to be regulated. But back to the point of controlling a narrative, I think social media is no different from mainstream media. And that's why it's so important, like for Black content creators, is not to go along with the feed, but to disrupt it.
I do think about the fact that, like, you know, like the two biggest stories in Black media in the last 2 months has been A, the beef between Drake and Kendrick, and B, the thing with Diddy. Because I really think about the fact that, like, for example, you know, hey, the Black artists record what they're going to record, but it's like these companies are primarily owned by white people, and none of them are stopping and saying, hey, you know what, maybe don't diss this person because they're actually, like, you know, a person, and you don't have to, like, insult them for no reason. Like, Kendrick seemingly came out of nowhere and just like, F you guys, and it's like now that they feel obligated to respond, and the record companies are like, it's going to get us views, clicks, and money, so keep on doing it. Hey, who cares if Drake's house gets shot up? We're getting money off of this.
No, but I think that's different because hip-hop beefs have been, you know, from back in the day. Like, hip-hop started with beef battles in New York City. People are crazy. People are way too invested. You know, it just used to be like, ooh, damn, did you hear what he said?
And it was really more like, it's more like, oh, your skill sucks versus like, oh, you suck and your mama sucks and your kids suck. And
I'm going to go blow your house up.
Right. That's where it got to the level. That started with like Big and Pac, really, but it's just the fact that it still sporadically pops up like that. I'm like, man, that's...
Yeah, it was just a battle to, you know, and of course, you know, forget that I'm from LA, but Kendrick tapped that ass. You know what I'm saying? but they're two different artists. Yeah. If it was a versus battle, Drake would have won.
You think so?
In a versus,
based on like the hits alone.
A versus battle, Drake would have kicked Kendrick's ass. Kendrick got hits. Yeah, but Drake has like
anthems and stadium stuff. Yeah,
and he would have won. But in a rap battle, no, you're not going to beat Kendrick on the pen. that's the type of conversation that the battle is supposed to involve.
Right.
Not
versus like, wait, is this person really a pedophile? Or is this person really like raping people? Like that's not supposed to be a thing that's in the conversation. Like, whoa, like are we judging on rap merit now or like personality merit? Because like these are two different conversations going on.
You know, and it's like, no, we still want music from Drake. Like Drake's not canceled because he lost a rap battle. And it's like, but that's what the mob mentality, it feels like. That's why it feels so exhausting. It's like, I don't defend Diddy, but that shit is between him and Cassie and whoever else wants to fucking sue him. Why the fuck do you have anything to do? Because I still love bad boy music. I still love Mary J. Blige.
Well, it's funny you mention that because I was in the store the other day and they were playing Faith Evans and I was just like, that goes into Puff's been around since like 91, 92. So if you're going to cancel him, you got to cancel everything he's ever produced, everything he's ever actually written for other people.
And I'm not doing it.
And it's like, there's too much stuff. Like you have to go through like the deep, I think about it with like R. Kelly stuff too. Like most of okay, we're going to cancel R. Kelly, but he'd have written for Michael Jackson, he'd have written for Kelly Price, he'd have written for all these other people. Are we going to also, if we're canceling the person saying that they are evil, are we canceling every single thing this person ever put their hands on? It's not going to happen. So we're being hypocritical in the sense of like, well, this person's so bad, blah, 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 but I'll still jam to this. Like, what are we doing?
I mean, I never canceled R. Kelly. He's in jail. He's in prison for the rest of his life. He's lost everything. But why should I not step in the name of love?
Well, so people would argue that, you know, there's once you know that they're doing something of that level, there's like a moral obligation. There are people on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook that talk about this kind of stuff. They're like, oh, he's so disgusting, or Puff his stuff is this and that, so I can't listen to that. Like, there are people that are legitimately
That's why I said I'm so exhausted because this mob mentality that Meta, YouTube, and that's being allowed to be created, it's ridiculous.
So my question is, do you think that an artist could ever do anything that would make you think, okay, they deserve to be canceled or they deserve to like not ever have their stuff consumed again?
I think, but you know what I think it depends on? The individual. It's personal. And if I decide that there is somebody that I don't want to listen to, that's my business.
That's
you know, it's personal. Well, it's not up for me to pick up a picket sign and get a T-shirt made to say, cancel this person. No. Now, if you ask me...
Well, I'm asking because, like, so this is just random. I was watching a documentary one time about Charles Manson, and they mentioned that, before he became the murderous cult leader, he had put out a couple albums. I actually went on Apple Music, and you can find Charles Manson's like guitar folk album on Apple Music. Would you say he'd be an artist that needs to be canceled? If someone was like, I love Charles Manson's music.
I wouldn't listen. I mean, I have no desire to listen to a Charles Manson record. So,
but I'm saying, if you were a fan of his and then found out afterwards, he actually like murdered a bunch of people and like did a whole Helter Skelter thing.
But I can't even relate. I can't relate. You know, I don't like. I remember Charles Manson and my mother always talking about Patty Hearst. Was it Patty Hearst or the lady he killed?
Oh gosh, Sharon Tate.
Sharon Tate.
Yeah.
But I mean, I have no. I think he got what was coming to him and all those other people. But I wouldn't listen to it, so I'm not even going to get into that. And I think that's my point. We are too consumed about telling people what they should and should not be doing. Especially when it comes to something as frivolous as a song or a movie.
Right.
If you don't fucking want to listen to it or watch it, don't.
Yeah, because some people have a hard time separating the art. Like again, to your point, like I still listen to R. Kelly stuff sporadically. Like there are like R&B singers that went on to create Hannah's Time. Something just like, but this song still jams. So like I'm able to compartmentalize. Bad person did a thing. I enjoy this song. A lot of people I find can't do that. So like,
no, they can't.
Yeah,
they can't. And it's sad, and that's okay. But keep that shit to yourself. And
so you're basically like, okay, if I don't listen to it, that's fine. But don't tell me not to listen to it anymore.
Yeah, don't tell me
or
not
judge me
to
on that
listen to
stuff.
Something or judge me on it. I believe that we will never know what happened behind closed doors, what people decided to accept, what they didn't accept. And I would leave it at that. I think Cameron said it best. I think he said it best.
Look at these cheeks.
Even with that, I mean, it's like, nigga. We're talking about sexual predators, and you're drinking the thing, saying you're going to get some cheeks. That's a whole nother conversation.
Oh, God.
You know what I'm saying? But once again, I think I don't blame. And then I saw a lot of Black political strategists or communication strategists, wanting people to, come to me. I will teach you how to act on mainstream media, which is fine. I think that we miss, as Black people, the opportunity to say, hey, let's change the narrative to not Cameron being a douchebag, but change the narrative of who booked Cameron.
He said that on the show. He was like, "Hey, who booked me for this?"
Exactly, he said it.
And I'm like, if I'm cause you see the lady on the side of the screen, right? And then you see him in a bucket hat and looking laid back. I'm like, did you really think you should have pressed record on this before putting it on air?
But not even that. Not even understanding that Cameron wasn't on
Bad Boy. It was Mace, yeah.
It was Mace.
But because it was Mace's boy, they're thinking, he must have known.
Because they were on the same podcast. One nigga, two niggas, same nigga.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, okay, well, he got no something. He Black. He a rapper. He on the show with Mace.
Right,
and it's like, that's the
I'm like, why didn't they call Mace? Mace would have been a better call to Mace because
Mace said today that he is only speaking on the documentary.
Okay.
Which means that he probably declined it.
Yeah,
and they're like, oh, well, it's the same thing. Just book him. That should be the conversation. Not, and we have the power to control that narrative instead of jumping on the bandwagon of what Mace did. To me, I mean, what Cameron did.
Yeah.
To me, the first two questions, he answered it all.
Like how much longer? I guess they're trying to fill up time because it's a 24-hour. But it's like he answered the questions in a succinct form. There's not much. Oh, could you please expand on what you just said? Is the audience at home dumb?
Well, no, but they wanted answers to questions that Mace would answer. She could have asked him a question of, as a member of the hip hop community, how has Puff's these allegations against Puff impacted the hip hop community rather than to be personal, and if you've seen Puff do this.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So it was like, back to my question, who booked him and who came up with those questions?
Yeah.
Because there was a conversation to have with Cameron.
Right.
But the questions that they had for him were more so for Mace, which goes back to, do you know who you're booking?
Well, that goes to also okay, who's behind the scenes booking this stuff? Because we have the Black talent on the screen asking the questions, but that doesn't mean that they're the ones in charge of this stuff. There are people behind the scenes, most likely white people.
Who's booking them? We know Abby didn't book him.
Yeah.
We know Abby didn't have Cameron's number in her database and say, oh, hey, call
Which is funny because I think just me, as having been in rap culture forever and a day, it's like I know enough of the backstory to know I'm not going to bring Cameron on because I know that he wasn't part of Bad Boy, and also he probably knows.
But you could have brought him on as a member of the hip hop community,
right? Well, I mean, not in the capacity that they were trying to. That they were thinking that he's the get for these kind of questions and whatnot. Right. It's like the conversation you're trying to have. That's not the conversation I would have booked him for specifically. There are tons of other people that were former Bad Boy players that would love to come on and talk about this. Mark Curry, Faith Evans. There are people around him that they could have asked. They were like, no, let's get these two because they have a sports show and they're popular.
No, they went for Mace, or they didn't. Either they didn't know the difference between Mace and Cameron, or they went for Mace. And Mace said that he's in the documentary. I'm assuming it's 50 Cent's documentary.
That's gonna be good because 50 been on Puff's head for a minute, so I'm excited to see that.
But who knows what that is? But he either declined. Well, clearly he declined. He said he's only speaking on the documentary, not knowing if it's 50s, but some documentary.
Well, because Mace was attempting to get signed to G Unit back in the day, and then Puff was like, "Well, you can have Mace for $2 million," and 50 was like, "I'm not paying that." But he was running with G Unit for a minute, so it makes sense that if he had a relationship with 50, he would be part of the documentary,
or any documentary, because you know what I'm saying. But to that point, he wasn't going to do the interview, or he didn't do the interview.
Yeah.
And it made sense, but there was a bigger conversation to have with Cameron about the state of hip hop.
Yeah.
How women are perceived in hip hop.
Yep.
There were lots of conversations to take that with Cameron. but they chose to take it on the main. So it just goes back to like what I was saying about mainstream media and us having an opportunity to create a narrative, to change the narrative, or either just to do what Meta, what Instagram, what mainstream media is doing when because there's an agenda. I mean, they don't call it systemic racism. It's by design and it's woven into everything. And we are always the ones to create the culture. Yeah. To really run
and the last ones to benefit off of it.
And the last ones to benefit off of it. And then when we do benefit off of it, we decide to tear each other down than to either support each other or lift each other up. Yeah. I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted.
Oh, speaking of, you said something about talking about how women are perceived in hip hop. I noticed, well, there was several things. I noticed one throughout the course of the Kendrick and Drake beef that a lot of the beef stemmed from like, oh, well, you're touching women in this way. Or, oh, well, you're horrible this way. Or, you beat women this and that. I found it interesting that like they were trying to to downgrade the other person's reputation based on how they were treating women. What were your thoughts about that at the time?
Say that again.
Like, for example, like Drake be like, oh, well, I'm better than you because you beat your woman and blah, 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 blah. And then Kendrick be like, well, I'm better than you because you touch women and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's always geared towards, like, how you treat women. And if you treat them worse than I do, therefore, you're the loser in this battle. Like, a lot of that was happening in terms of, like, using women as a means of trying to degrade the men in the battle.
Oh, you're talking about in the Drake and Kendrick and how they were
well, yeah.
I mean, maybe that's their experience with women. And maybe that's the type of women that they get down with. You know, maybe they don't go and court lawyers and doctors and, women who are community organizers or women who are about their village or family's business or community's business. Maybe they don't date those type of women and those are the women that they are used to being with. And so I can't speak on that. Maybe it's the type of women they dealing with. And I think that's a whole nother conversation too. Yeah. Who are you dealing with? Because that could very well be so. That's my answer.
Okay. I mean, that's what ties into also like, because, we obviously, we saw something today about like Sexy Red and, not Sexy Red, was it Megan Thee Stallion and Gorilla on tour? You got Sexy Red up there now. And so you have women in the culture that are, I'll say, portraying themselves in ways, that, in my opinion, that doesn't really, if your narrative is we don't want guys treating us a certain way, and then you're out there presenting yourself a certain way, how do we get past that then? Like.
I mean, it's her choice to do that. I mean, look at Megan Thee Stallion. She's a college graduate.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
She was in college doing, getting her degree and stuff like that, while at the same time, like out there, and again, I'm not judging this. I'm just making the observation. She was out there twerking, making songs about being with a whole bunch of dudes, and she had her own little beef earlier this year with Nicki about his song and stuff when she was talking, where again, her trying to prove that she's the baddest bee is like, oh, I'm twerking and doing all these guys and F you. Like, so that's the image that's being put out there, and then they get mad when men are treating them like the image they put out there.
I mean, I think you just said it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I can't speak on that because I can't relate to that. Do I like a good bop, a good song? I do. You know what I'm saying? But that's they have the liberty to do that. You know what I'm saying? This is America.
I'm totally fine for like they have the right to do. I guess I always feel weird about like they have the right to do, but then they complain about when people are treating them based on the things that they chose to do in the first place.
I mean, and you have a very valid point, and I just think that goes back to the direction our culture and our community is going in. The dignity factor, the self-respect factor is a very low bar these days. Yeah. And I'm exhausted. I am really exhausted,
So with this exhaustion, where would you like to see this hip hop at large and things stem? And whether it's like based on like new stuff, based on like music stuff, like where would you like this to go so you would be less exhausted? Because I'll be honest, like as much as I, complain about there's a lot of beef and stuff going on, like if Kendrick were to drop a song tonight, I would be online. If Drake were to drop something, if Eminem came out and said I'm dissing everybody that dissed everybody else, I'd be like, I'm in, I gotta watch. Like I hate that I would react that way, but I totally would.
I don't think that that's the problem. I think it is the chatter, so many just opinions. Like, what we're doing, we're having a conversation, which is fine. But I think the aggressive conversations of who to accept and who not to accept is really kind of, it bothers me. You know what I'm saying? Because if I don't unfollow Diddy, or if I listen to this song, what are you gonna do? Cancel me? You know, like, that's not your call to make. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you decide that you don't want to eat Cheez-Its no more, or you don't want to go to Trader Joe's anymore, and I decide to cross your picket line, like, who said that you can make a picket line?
Yeah. And to be fair, just there's such a history of, let's say somebody does something and I would be like, oh, that's bad, I'm going to cancel you. And then like 5 days later, a story about me comes out. Like, that happens so much where I'd be like, I wouldn't be judging nothing on nobody. Cause,
oh, you're talking about like Joe Biden. We talked about
Joe Biden, like, it's like, he's saying, oh, Diddy, this and that. Then his ex-girlfriend comes out like, but you were doing the same thing to me. Like, that happens all the time where I'd be very careful about, like, I'm going to completely demonize, because you'll be the same one 2 years later, something happens that you didn't mean to do or whatever, and you're going to want to get demonized. Like,
right.
It's like, it seems so unfair to do that. So I tend to be on the side of, like, I ain't got to agree with the person. If I choose to not listen, hey, to be fair, when the Michael Jackson doc came out, where like it really looked like he like did all that stuff, I didn't listen to Mike for like 6 months. I didn't tell my friends, don't listen to Michael Jackson. Like, that was my personal journey.
You didn't listen to Michael Jackson?
For 6 months, I was like, I just can't do it. And then finally, I was just like, I'm sorry, I like Thriller too much. I'm sorry, guys. Like, so it's like, but again, that was like my decision. I didn't try to control other people to be like, and don't listen to Mike anymore because of what I think and feel based on this documentary that came out. Like, it's not my job. Like, I'm not going to judge you if you're just listening to other people that did stuff I don't think that I agree with,
Yeah, I never stopped listening to Michael Jackson. I'm sorry.
There's nothing to be sorry about. Like, that was your choice. That was my thing. I just knew that when I turned it on, I felt an ick for a while. So I said, okay, until I get rid of this ick, it is what it is.
I do believe Michael Jackson was a little peculiar. Some might call him a weirdo. I mean, I get that. I don't know.
I had a lot of conversations with my mom, because my mom used to work at Big Brothers Big Sisters, where you have to, like, you're trying to get people to go hang out with kids for a while and be their big brothers or whatever.
Right.
And so she said, based on her, as part of that job, she had to study up on, looking for certain signs that indicate that the person that's trying to be a big brother could potentially be like a pedophile. And so she said, based on her training in that when she was looking at the Michael Jackson stuff, she said he marked off a lot of boxes that indicated that he could have very well done this stuff. Now, whether or not it was completely proven, that's a different story, but I'm just saying her research indicated that it could have most likely happened. So that's what I'm saying, like, when that stuff came out in the documentary, a lot of that stuff, when I talked to my mom, was like, yeah, these things that they're mentioning, it parallels with the things that those kind of predators would do. So again, that was my personal journey, but as I was going through that, like I said, I wasn't judging nobody else on that if they agreed or not. If they said, I saw the documentary and the people are lying, you can totally believe that. It's totally fine. We all have the right to believe what we want to believe. I'm not stopping nobody. But again, I'm not going to cancel nobody. Just I wouldn't want them to cancel me. Be like, how dare you not listen to Michael stuff? He's so great. You're. Why are we doing this? Like, at the end of the day, this is stuff we're listening to in our own personal time. Why are we judging other people based on that?
Yeah, and it still speaks to, I think we put these individuals on too high a pedestal, and it's art. They're a part of the art community. And, if they disappoint you, then, and you don't want to watch them, like Bill Cosby. I love the Cosby Show, and the fact
I still like it. I don't like him to like the show. Like,
I love the Cosby Show. I love a lot of the old school 70s movies that Bill Cosby played in. I just don't like the fact that they decide, like, why haven't they pulled all of Harry Weinstein's movies? Like, we still watch those.
Yeah.
Woody Harrelson movies, we still watch those. There's such a line of when black people do things. I mean, and they could be dog dead wrong.
Well, what we already see is depraved. So it's like when something comes out that we did something, it's like, oh, see, they were depraved this whole time. Whereas white people get a bit more grace. Like, well, it was just a time in their life where they didn't mean it, or it's just they're lying on him. Like,
I just don't like it.
The fact that Trump was able to like tell somebody he just touches girls in the what and gets away with it, and he became president. That's like all you need to know. Because if Obama had done, if he had sniffed the girl the wrong way,
Right.
he would not have been president.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I just, it's a difference, and I'm not saying that Bill Cosby is right. I'm not saying that Diddy is right. I'm just saying that the Cosby Show is on TV One Monday through Friday. And it is so good. It is lessons of Black family.
Yeah.
And the intent of all those characters that played those parts, from Claire Huxtable to Theo, Vanessa.
And that's the thing too. Like I hate about the cancellation aspect is that you cancel, like for Bill Cosby, right? They canceled that one guy. So now all the other people that were on that cast that were getting residuals have to suffer because we decided Cosby's bad, so retroactively his show is bad now. Right. And it's like, some of them had to start acting again or go because it's like, oh, that money ran out. That's the thing where I worry about, like the quick judgment. Like I said, we could argue, hey, there was proof that came out because Cosby did X, Y, and Z, and even then we don't know all the stories about that. But it's like we're not looking at the total impact that takes on other people.
And it's not defending Black men.
Yeah.
But I mean, I feel like if we're going to protect, we should be protecting each other. And I'm not talking about Diddy. I'm not talking about Bill Cosby.
Yeah.
I'm just saying the narrative of who we are. You know what I'm saying? Like the mayor in New York wants to take the key back from Diddy.
What? What?
Diddy.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, what is that going to do? You're not going to actually get the physical.
It's one of those like symbolic gestures that don't mean anything, but it feels like it means something to people that are mad about it. Like, oh, look, we're catering to you. Like, okay, great. Like, the key does nothing. It doesn't open any extra doors.
I think I'm exhausted and I'm sad because of the full steam ahead direction of the way things are going, and the power that we have. We're the ones that's diminishing it. You know what I'm saying? Like we're taking it away. I mean, and whatever people say, the labels know what was going on in Puffy's orbit. They knew what was going on in R. Kelly's orbit.
They had people around them that
knew what was going on with Bill Cosby because they were all at the Playboy Mansion.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? But it just always seems like the ring, racketeering, RICO charges is about organized crime.
Yeah.
Nobody from the record industries ever are held accountable for supplying this, doing that, doing this. And so it just...
It's almost like a setup. Like, okay, we're going to feed these people's like low base levels, and then they're going to fall for it, and then we're going to trap them. Because like there have been rumors about R. Kelly for years, for Diddy for years, for all these people for years, and like... It ain't like it was a secret, and then nobody said nothing. I mean, as sad as it was to see, Cassie actually got beat. That had been talked about for years. Diddy parties are infamously known for some weird stuff going down.
Because who cares? Like, do you know what would happen at Hugh Hefner parties?
I mean, I've been to a Playboy Mansion party before. Like, I went there where they had like body paint models and people walking around doing all kinds of salacious stuff. Like,
but I'm not even talking about. I'm talking about the inside party.
Oh, I don't know.
That's my point, and it's like. Everybody's talking about, well, these Diddy parties. Well, guess what? The Playboy Mansion was 2 doors down, and he learned from the best, Hugh Hefner. He learned from the best, Clyde Davis. But nobody is talking about Clyde Davis' little sneaky parties. Nobody's talking about Hugh Hefner's nasty parties. But we want to be like, oh, Puffy, after 2 o'clock. If he wanted to have sex with 10 men and 2 women, that's his damn business.
And the guys go in there and the women go in there and know what's about to go down, and they're saying, they're agreeing to it. We're grown adults.
But they're going to be tooting. They're going to be snorting. They're going to be, sticking. I went to an NWA party when I was in high school.
Oh, wow.
I wasn't even supposed to be there. But because I was tall, I was able to get in. It was a pajama jam. The things I seen girls do with a Corona bottle. I mean, I had never seen such a thing, but guess what? They were consenting. And a lot of times, you can be consenting one day, and 20 years later, because you need a check, you want to be taken advantage of. I've seen, so these parties that Diddy was having, everybody in the industry had them.
I know it's a lot of hindsight, like, especially like, again, if you go with like the Bill Cosby stuff where it's like, oh, he roofed me, blah, blah, blah. Like, that... we're not excusing this, but like back in the day, that was a known thing that people that happened. So like to go from like, you know, oh, I'll take this drink, and I saw him put a thing in there, but I'm going to drink it anyway. To be years later, oh, in hindsight, I was traumatized, and he did a thing. It's like you knew the reputation and decided to deal with this person anyway. I can only feel so sorry for you. I'm sorry. Like you're grown at that point. You know what you're doing.
And I'll give you another a thing when I was in college. So the NWA party, you know, and they used to have famous pool parties too. I mean, but if you went to that party and certain girls were invited to that party because they knew what it was. So if they pulled up, they knew. So one summer I came back from college and I was with my girlfriends. And my girlfriend's dude was like, here's some money, whatever, go out, y'all have fun, whatever. So we went to Hollywood, and we passed the Best Western, and we saw Tupac and them hanging out. So we turned around, we was like, okay, we gonna stay there. Yeah. So we went, we checked in, Tupac and them came back to our room. I'll never forget, he told me I had the most pretty breasts. Great bust line, you know, they rolled some weed. They didn't offer us any to smoke. You know what I mean? Nigga shit. Yeah. And then they were like, they were going to the club. Well, about 2:00 in the morning, guess what? Now, it was up to us to open the door. If we opened the door, we knew what it was. We didn't open the door. So a lot of times we put ourselves in situations that we have the choice to either open the door or not open the door. We chose to open the door. They knocked, they didn't get an answer, they went about their business. So the point is, with all of these after hours parties, Playboy mansions, NWA parties, Diddy party, whatever. It is a choice that you make.
I always thought about, I always think about that because like, and sometimes I think as a guy, it's like voicing these things about how like, but the woman had a part in this. It's like they think, oh, but how dare you? I remember back when I was an Uber driver, like I remember I picked up these two girls one time, and there was a girl, one of the girls sitting in the back was like, hey, we got to go pick up some, I don't know if it was like weed or some kind of drug, but we got to pick this up real quick because we're going to go meet these guys that we just met and then do some stuff with them in terms of like the drug stuff. And I was just like, and if that turns into a situation where she gets SA'd, she going to be all about, he should have known, man, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, but you're in the car, I'm hearing you say you're going to go get some drugs to get messed up with this guy, and then you're going to hope nothing happens. Like, you're putting yourself in the situation. Right. The guy should not do stuff, but if he's high also, you're not going to make good decisions together. But why is he going to get blamed more for that? And I see that with a lot of these cases later on. It's like, oh, the guy should have known better. And I was just, when did 18 become, I'm still not old enough to make good decisions? Like, as a guy at 18, we have to darn near go to the army and be ready to make all the decisions, and it's going to be our fault for whatever. Right. But women get the grace of, if I'm 18, I'm still technically a child, and my brain's not fully formed, and he should have known better than X, Y, and Z. Why?
I mean, these are tough conversations that we have to begin to have. Like, you know, nobody should take advantage of anybody, but there's a certain level of responsibility, that accountability that we all have. Now, I was just watching a show that I have fallen in love with. It's The Chi.
Oh, The Chi, okay.
So I started watching it last year, and then this season started, which made me go back and start from the beginning.
Oh, wow, okay.
So, you know, I'm on this Chi journey, and I just love it. But the part where Keisha gets abducted, now, she had no choice in that matter. That is a situation that is so horrific. This girl was, have you ever seen The Chi?
I've not seen The Chi.
Okay, so basically, she was a young girl, and she had like a burner Instagram account, and she was provocative. She had all these little sexy, she was fast, you know, fast. Well, somebody in the neighborhood, grown-ass man, had been watching her. Oh, so snap. He abducted her, and she went missing. And nobody knew where she was. They thought that she had ended up in a trap house because she was messing with this dude. She wasn't in a trap house. Nobody knew what happened to her. This man had her in a basement. You know what I'm saying? Which made me think like, well, you know, you drive down the street. Well, I wonder what's going on behind those doors.
I'll ask questions.
But anyway, the point is, she had no choice in that. She was that's totally different from hip hop scenarios. Totally different.
First of all, hip hop artists already have a reputation you should just automatically going into a hip hop scenario. Some stuff could go down,
right?
And it's very easy to see it coming. Like it's not like it's like out of nowhere. It's like you walk into a place and it's like, oh, there's women twerking over the place. I'm gonna walk in, like.
Right. So you just don't. It's totally different. It's like they don't call it sex, drugs, and rock and roll for a reason. It's called that for a reason.
Yeah.
Hip hop falls in that same household. And so I would say to any woman out there that if you're going to be in these type of environments, it is your choice to know what you're getting yourself. Like if you go into that, you know what it is. You know. If you stay because you want the record deal, you want the Met Gala,
you want the lifestyle that comes with it.
You want the lifestyle that comes with it. Then maybe you are going to be subjecting yourself to some things that you don't want to do. But if you stay, that is your fucking choice.
Yeah.
And you can't change your mind later.
I'm almost tempted to believe if they stay, they're doing it because they know there's going to be a payday eventually. Like, oh,
or
yeah.
they hope that it's going to be a payday.
Again, Diddy had a reputation for being kind of abusive. If you decide I'm going to get into this,
even have to do anything. What I'm talking about don't have nothing to do with Cassie. It don't have nothing to do with Diddy. It's just understanding that if you put yourself in those situations, it only take one time for a nigga to hit you to know that he's gonna do it again.
Right.
But if you want that lifestyle and you decide to stay,
you're saying yes to that treatment.
I'm not saying that he's not a scumbag. He's still a fucking whack ass nigga. But you have to take accountability for why you're staying. It's totally different. And I think that it discredits the girl that's down the block, from anybody in the neighborhood who really has no choice. To me, those two are two separate things.
Right.
It's like the whole Me Too era. Harry Weinstein. You sleep with that nigga because you want to be an executive producer and you want to star in your movie and you decide to do that and he's a nasty, stinky, slimy motherfucker, but you want to have his name attached to your project. That is a choice.
Yes.
That is a choice. That is different from the secretary who has 3 kids at home. It's totally different.
Right.
It's totally different. And I think that we have to stop mixing the two. And if you want to be in Hollywood and if you want to get out and that's what you choose to do, you can't cry wolf later.
Right.
Or sue the nigga.
And there's
I
ways,
don't know.
There's ways to get on Hollywood
in civil court, though.
There's ways to get on Hollywood without doing all that stuff, but some people are trying to take the easy route. If you're trying to take the easy route, it's very easy to find somebody to sleep with, hook up with, and then do whatever. But there's still no guarantee. There's consequences to that. Like that does not come with like, it's not the easiest route to take as easy as you think it's going to be initially. So
I don't know. And it's like and I feel like people are forced to now. We could talk about Diddy a little bit, but I feel like people are forced that are in a celebrity zone. They're feeling pressure to unfollow him. To do all of these things, and if that's what your heart is really feeling, then I think that you should do it. But if you're doing it just because you want to stay in a certain space, it's like you ain't learned the lesson from the whole scenario. Yeah, because it's really about having people held accountable for the shit that they do, and to also stay in your lane and not be so invested into somebody else's life.
Yep.
That's what I feel like. We're so invested, and which goes back to how we started. There's so much other shit going on. Fucking eggs is $7 at the grocery store.
Well, if you go to Aldi's, it's $2.39. But yes, I in most stores it's like very, very expensive. No, I was looking up eggs like
and that could be a little exaggeration, but everything is so expensive. I wish that we would be so passionate about consumer affairs.
As invested about like things that are actually going to help people versus like
affairs. Can we rally together about why our cell phone bills are so high? Can we rally together about airline tickets and how high they are? Can we rally together about these high ass electricity and water bills that we're getting in the
inflation in general, because like a lot of stuff like the fact
but sometimes people don't know inflation, so I'm just breaking it down.
Like the fact that like fast food now costs like a hamburger and fries cost like $15 at McDonald's, like that's a problem.
If we would come together on shit like that, like let's make that go viral on the Shade Room and Baller Alert and Neighborhood Talk. let's make consumer affairs, take the spaces of other people's business.
Yeah.
And I think that we can really tackle some things. Like, let's continue to support, wisdom over at the NAACP Youth Department and Tiffany Lofton, because they're a part of why Joe Biden is canceling all of the student loan debt. Like, let's push and support and get these student loan debts decreased and erased for everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, ceasefire. I mean, that might not be, your thing, but let's make those things important more so than what we talking about now.
Yeah, this stuff should really be more sort of like consumer entertainment versus like, this is my life and Diddy's thing and R. Kelly's thing and wow, this is like it shouldn't be that deep. I mean, obviously for people that are doing a podcast on music and things like that, like it's cool to talk about this stuff, but this isn't like, at the end of the day, this isn't like we're so obsessed with this that we don't focus on anything else going on, And I think a lot of stuff online, it just goes to that where it's like, Diddy doesn't know you. Drake and Kendrick don't know you. Like, they don't care what your commentary is about it. They just care that they're getting money off of you because you're talking about it so much and because you're invested in what they're doing. But it's like, that's not helping the world at large.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm exhausted. And then you get exhausted from talking about it. I mean, that's where it is. We're trying to figure out what this is going to be. So we just got on camera and started.
Yeah, we're very much newsies. Like, I mean, aside from just music stuff, we're in the news looking at stuff all the time. So I'm always on various sites looking up. I'm a big music fan, so I like music stuff. I also, like things outside of that. But this is just a show to kind of talk about it because there seems to be stuff happening all the time about in this stuff. So it's like, why not talk about it?
Right.
So hopefully you've enjoyed what you've heard here. We'd love to get intel from you guys about what you'd like to hear us talk about on these shows, because we're just trying to fill it out right now. So you can leave a comment down below, or you can write to me at aptsongs@hotmail.com and let us know what you think.
Deuces.
Talk to y'all later. Peace.